we can finally say that FM26 is here. I think it's fair to say that after FM25's cancellation, FM26 has been the most anticipated FM release from Sports Interactive for years. A game that's been years in the making, players are promised a refreshed managerial experience which lays new foundations that redefine football storytelling. And honestly, even though this almost sounded too good to be true, I think after FM22, 23 and 24 all feeling the same, this gave a large portion of the FM community some big hopes for FM26. From Sports Interactive overhauling the game with the Unity engine for the best graphics we've seen in a long time to the long-awaited addition of women's football, FM26 promised to be the game that players have been begging for years. Well, I've spent a few days now playing the beta version of the new game, so does FM26 live up to the hype after its 2-year wait, or is it a little bit of a letdown? Well, these are my honest thoughts on Football Manager 26. First things first, when you enter FM26 for the first time, you're greeted by a brand new UI with the home screen now called the Portal, a hub where in one place you can find your inbox, fixtures, and much more. You'll also notice with the overhauled UI that the sidebar on the left is gone. It's no more, so you're gonna have to take some time to get used to the brand new UI. I guess I'd call it a modern redesign. The new UI features smaller panels and minimalist icons. I think it does look a bit easier on the eye. I could admit that, but the problem is that when you first load up the game, you don't know what these little icons mean. So you have to learn what they all mean just for the icons to make sense. Of course, the idea of this is to save you time. It means that you'll spend less time looking at the menus and actually playing the game, but if you're an experienced FM player, it does feel like starting all over again. Now, this is a good appeal for new players, but for returning players who just want to get stuck into the game itself, it's a little bit of a nightmare. I'm gonna say something which you've probably heard already, but it does feel like FM26 has been built with console players in mind over PC players. Over time, this is something you'll get used to, and give it a few weeks, these complaints will be gone. It's like when you move house. When you first arrive, it doesn't feel like home, but if you give it some time, you'll settle in and you'll be fine. Now, once we get past the confusing new UI, which you'll be able to learn and understand with time, the new menus are visually pleasing. They look better than FM24. I also think that if you are a new player, the onboarding and tutorials are extremely detailed for FM26, and it makes the game easy to understand from the go. Right, enough on the UI and the menus, let's get into the actual managing. When you first load up the game, you can create your manager as usual. The customization options aren't much different from FM24, but I think the best new addition to FM26 has been the new dual formation system in your team's tactic page. Now you can view and set up how your team lines up both in and out of possession, with 2 different squad pages being shown. So simply, you are managing 2 phases of the game. More big changes have been made to long-standing features like the role system being overhauled. Gone are the days of legacy roles and duties like attack, support, defend. Now you have more detailed roles available to choose from. One role I found quite cool as an example was the new channel forward role for strikers, which will see them drift into wider areas and make runs into channels. In total, there are 39 new roles in FM26. The new in and out of possession tactics are great. It allows me to have way more control over how my team set up at both ends of the pitch. But how did this translate into the game? Did my players follow these roles, and did they set up how I wanted them to once the game began? I found the out of possession setup worked fine, but sometimes the match engine wasn't translating my in possession setup how I wanted. In my first save, I used Crystal Palace. For my possession setup, it was predominantly a counter-attacking game, but my counter-attacks felt very static and slow, not how I had originally planned. I found that sometimes creating clear-cut chances didn't come easy for my team. I'd even add instructions like discourage long-range shots, but the team would continue to do so. The easiest praise to give FM26 is the improvement to graphics. FM26 has been built on the new Unity engine for the first time ever, which gives more realistic stadiums, better player movement, improved lighting, more active crowds, and a whole load more. When it comes to player movement, I think it's night and day above the previous installments of the series, but visually, it's not hard to beat the previous FM games, let's be honest. I noticed that a lot of my attacking players could size up a defender before easily beating them with a boost of pace, and that was a cool little addition. But what I will say is that If FM is the only game you play, these graphics are phenomenal. If you play other video games, football related or not, then the graphics are still subpar to what we're used to in big 2025. Another big addition for FM26 was the Premier League license. The biggest league in the world is now fully licensed and available in FM26, and I think this is a fantastic addition. It was a much needed one. It adds to the realism, and anything Premier League related just looks cool. It's great to finally see this major league fully incorporated into the game. Women's football is also an addition that's been spoken about for years in FM, and it's finally been added to the game for FM26. In typical Football Manager fashion, it's as detailed as you would expect, but it's not as in-depth as the men's leagues. Take English football for an example. In FM26, the top 2 divisions of women's football are included in the game, while in other countries like Germany, Italy, and France, only the top division is included. In-game, there's not much difference to how they perform compared to the men's. In games like EA Sports FC, the women players usually feel more agile and quick due to their height and builds compared to the men, but that's not the case in FM26. Playing a save in the women's game also appears to be a bit of a different challenge compared to the men's. Lower budgets, shorter contracts, and transfers between rival clubs are way more common, so you'll have to deal with some different challenges compared to usual. So, lots has been added to FM26, but here's a few things I've noticed that are no longer in the game. You can no longer shout at players. Now, I don't care if this added nothing to the game. It made me feel like the manager. I want it back. I want to shout at my players. The spacebar key no longer takes you to messages, and that is a change that is gonna take some getting used to. Heat maps, pass maps, stats during the game, and also what stats you want to see, gone. And there's limited customization on replay speeds and angles. Coaching attributes have also changed. Now, coach attributes aren't judged by numbers, but instead as an ability description. This is another small change that, honestly, absolutely no one asked for. Another feature that's missing completely is international football. Yes, you heard that right. There is no international management in FM26 from launch. Sports Interactive has confirmed that international management will be added to the game as a free content update next year, with FM securing the rights to the FIFA World Cup. When it's finally added, it will be a welcome addition, of course, but completely removing it from launch is a poor decision in my opinion. I just think this impacts the value of the game. When you pay for FM26, you're expecting features like international management to be in the game from the go, so I can't lie, it's a bit frustrating. Overall, FM26 has impressed me, but it's also frustrated me equal amounts on my first few days playing the game. We finally got the improved match engine, women's football, and my favourite addition, the new in and out of possession tactics setup, but I cannot shake this feeling that too many changes have been made to the UI. For a game where you spend a lot of time in the menus, I feel that a lot of unnecessary and frustrating changes were made that has left me finding it difficult to navigate my way around the game. It does feel like FM26 has been created to tailor towards the console players over PC. I mean, Sports Interactive even mentioned in a blog post going through the first 10 things to do in FM26 that you should consider using a controller. When comparing it to FM24, improvements have been made, but there are also a few factors I've not enjoyed from the go. So, all in all, FM26 is a fine addition to the Football Manager series, but it's far from groundbreaking. Because of this, we're going to give FM26 a 3 out of 5. But what are your thoughts on FM26? Let me know in the comments down below, and don't forget to subscribe to All Out Gaming for more gaming content.